within the next couple weeks. We'll be in Clearwater in late March. And maybe another star or two could be joining us and them there. Let's bring on Odyssey MLB insider Bob Nightengale. Insider Call is presented by BetQL. Get access to data and insights the sportsbooks don't want you to see. Bet smarter and beat the books. Download the BetQL app or visit BetQL.com today. Bob yesterday wrote in USA Today that several executives think the Phillies could be a sleeper for one of the remaining marquee free agents, Jordan Montgomery or Cody Bellinger. Let's talk to Bob about that. Bob, how you doing this today?
Bob.
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks, guys.
So, Bob, why have the Phillies been so quiet up until this point?
Well, I mean, they spent the money, of course, getting Aaron Nola back. And I think kind of sitting tight. I mean, people are asking the same thing about the Giants, and the Chicago Cubs. Everybody else has got money. They're just waiting for those price tags to drop on pretty much all those Boris clients because no one has stepped forward yet. Just seeing who's going to make a stare-down contest, who blinks first.
Bob, let's go through the couple names you put out in your column yesterday. Let's start with Cody Bellinger. Outfielder, has played first base with the Cubs last year, of course, an MVP a few years ago, and he's still out there. Bob, if the Phillies were to get involved, do you think this would be a long-term deal or more of, hey, come to Philadelphia for a year or two, maybe an opt-out, have a big year, and then try free agency again? How do you think that would look if the Phillies were involved?
I would think he would get a long-term contract, but with opt-outs. I'm sure he's looking for over $200 million. No one's offered him that, so I don't see him signing a short-term contract. And obviously, people aren't sure who the real Cody Bellinger is. Is the guy who was a star last year, finished 6th or 7th in the MVP race, or the guy who struggled, with injuries and stuff with the Dodgers the last 2-3 years? So, but still a great outfielder, great Gold Glove defense. So obviously, put him in center field in Philadelphia. And let the other guys, be extra outfielders like a Rojas.
Do you think the fact that Scott Boras is his agent, he has so many high-powered clients, that's kind of hurting Cody Bellinger's market a little bit?
Well, I just think the asking price. We'll see. And a lot of times, they're very patient and sign guys in spring training. You don't have to look any further than 2 years ago with Bryce Harper. I mean, he was a March signing. So, that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, a lot of times, particularly if you have pitchers, it's like, okay, are you going to try to slot one guy here and save the other guy for a team that's more interested in your other client? But in Bellinger's case, he's just, being an elite center fielder, he's getting a market by himself.
Bob, how about Jordan Montgomery, the starting pitcher you mentioned yesterday? And it's kind of interesting because the Phillies re-signed Nola, so they brought back their staff from last year. They have Christopher Sanchez slotted in as the 5th guy right now. Not much big depth, though, behind those guys. And they were in on the Yamamoto sweepstakes, which made me think, if it's the right guy, they would be interested in spending on another pitcher. How about Montgomery's market? It felt like maybe Texas, but for whatever reason that hasn't happened. His return there has not happened yet.
Yeah, keep waiting for Texas. And, he loved Texas. Texas loved him. They're having some problems with their TV deal. Normally they're supposed to get $111 million. They're not going to get that. So as time has dragged on here, I'm not sure if it's ever going to happen. Obviously Montgomery's a big-time pitcher, pitching the AL East. So it'll certainly be, give the Phillies a lot of depth. Like you said, if they had $325 earmarked for Yamamoto, this guy will get about, half that price.
Bob, as you look forward to the season, the last couple of years, the Phillies have had incredible playoff runs. NLCS last year, World Series the year before that. But in the regular season, they really haven't been on the Braves level. It's like we go into the season kind of knowing wild card is probably where they're going to be. Do you think they need one more player to compete with the Braves? Because it looks like the Braves got even better this offseason than what they were last year.
I do. I mean, I think they really could use a Montgomery. I think, Bellinger, would be kind of a bonus type thing. That way you don't have to rely on Rojas and Marsh and those type of guys. But I think Montgomery would really fortify that rotation and give them a fighting chance to knock off Atlanta. So I think, even with the moves the Dodgers made, I still think Atlanta's the class of the NL. We'll see what happens, but they've been bounced out the last couple of years in playoffs, so they're trying to avoid that, just like the Dodgers are.
Bob, you mentioned the TV deal. What's going on with Texas? That's hitting quite a few teams where the Bally Sports, the TV deal, it went out. They went bankrupt, so these teams don't know if they're going to get the full money they're supposed to get. Do you think that's impacting free agency here? Some teams like the Yankees, let's say, they have their own network. They're fine. But if you're part of that group, like the Rangers are, you could be, without the money your ownership is expecting. Do you think that's impacting why free agency has been slow this year?
I do. It's particularly with the the mid-market, small-market clubs. It's hit Minnesota. They haven't done much. Cleveland hasn't done anything. So it certainly affected those. But Arizona's in that situation, and they actually spent money this winter to get their highest payroll. So I think a lot of free agency too is the slow market. Just a lot of the big teams haven't done anything. I mean, the Yankees, they got Soto, but as far as free agency, really haven't done much outside Stroman. Boston hasn't done anything. The Cubs made one little move. So at some point, I think some of these teams will step up. I'm not sure about Boston, but certainly the Cubs have got to do something.
Bob Nightengale, Odyssey MLB insider. Bob, last one for you. As we look forward to spring training in a couple weeks, do you think the Phillies will add one more player of significance, whether it be Bellinger or Montgomery or anyone else? Do you think they'll add someone before we start this season between now and, let's say, the end of March?
I do. I'm not sure it's going to be with the marquee guys, whether it's going to be Montgomery or a Bellinger or someone like that. But I do think they'll add. I just think too much at stake here. It's pretty much the same team as a year ago. I know, relying, of course, on Harper being healthy and playing lights out at first base. But I do think they'll make a move. I think, with the John Middleton and Dave Dombrowski, they're just too aggressive to just kind of sit back and hope things fall in place.
Yeah, that's the way I feel, too. Dombrowski's never this quiet. Usually something's brewing. Bob, we always appreciate you hopping on. Have a good one. I'm sure we'll catch up down the line. Thank you, Bob.
Have a good one, Bob.
Sure. All right, take care. Thanks, guys.
There he goes. Odyssey MLB insider Bob Nightengale. Insider Call is presented by BetQL. BetQL here to help us all make better bets through real, proven analytics. Bet smarter and beat the books. Download the BetQL app or visit BetQL.com today. Some interesting stuff there, Hugh, from Bob talking about Bellinger and Jordan Montgomery. He seems to think, and he said maybe not necessarily those two guys, but he seems to think they're going to get someone else before this thing starts.
Yeah, just trying to wait till that price drop a little bit, man. I mean, like you said, like having a high-powered lawyer or a high-powered agent, asking for that much money, you do want to kind of, wait and see what the market's going to bear before you start doling out that kind of bread. So it might be a little while before we get somebody, but we're probably going to get somebody. All
right, let me ask you guys. Those are the two names he put out yesterday. He spoke about him here. If you could have one, who do you want? The starting pitcher or the bat in the outfield?
Can never have enough starting pitching. But I would say in this situation, I would probably go with the bat because we don't know what Rojas is going to be in that lineup.
I love Bellinger. And then, look, Montgomery's there's no wrong here, right? Add another pitcher to the rotation and pushes Sanchez to like the sixth starter or the bullpen, like a swing guy, or you put a Bellinger in this lineup. I just keep looking at the lineup and saying they're one player short. They're good. They're probably a very good team. If you ask me right now, I'm probably going to just like close my eyes and say about 90 wins like last year, around that number. But I still think, Kyle, they're one player short from where we want them to be.
So I agree. I'm not sure if it has to be Cody Bellinger, though. I guess the way I'm looking at it is like the next step for building this team is to build it to last in the postseason. I think we all agree that we have a roster that can get us through the regular season some way, shape, or form, whether that's going to be winning the division. I don't know, with the Braves there. But this team should make the playoffs. Then at that point, it's about what's my rotation look like in the postseason, and do we want Taijuan Walker to be the fourth guy? I don't. I would go for Jordan Montgomery here so that we can push Walker down. And then maybe if you have that rotation set up that way, you can then flip a Christopher Sanchez and you can get a guy that fills the role that Bellinger would as a bat in your lineup. So you don't necessarily need it to be Bellinger, but I think I would prioritize adding that fourth arm just to carry us through the postseason. I want this team to be able to go win the World Series, and I think the best way to do that is by building on the rotation for the postseason.
Yeah, Montgomery's a good pitcher. I mean, it's 3 straight years now of an ERA less than 4, and it's gotten better. It was 3.8, it's 3.4, it's 3.2 last year. Pitched well in the playoffs for the Texas Rangers. He's a good pitcher, 31 years old, lefty. And it also could be a little hedge here because Wheeler is a free agent after this season. I mean, I hope they bring him back, but
you talking about they're not going to bring back Zach?
Well, no, until he's re-signed, we don't know.
I know what you're saying. You're covering all the bases.
A little hedge.
Yeah, a little hedge.
Look, I would take either of them. If I had my choice, I would take Bellinger. But boy, they're both really good. And I think the Phillies should go after one of these guys right now before we start the season. 215-592-9494.